Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're doing something pretty wild. We're going to dive into a highly advanced technical teardown of the human mind. You know those deep, seemingly intractable conflicts we all have? Well, we are going to treat them not as mysterious emotional failings, but as unrecognized software loops just endlessly running in the background of our consciousness.
But before we get into the heavy math, what's known as the postulate grid, which maps out the hidden rules and decisions you've made, I want to challenge your core assumptions about who you actually are. Think about it. What if the personality traits you so strongly defend aren't your authentic essence at all? What if they're simply the frozen residue of a game you lost a very long time ago?
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with 1, the identity valence paradox. Then move to 2, mechanics of the overwhelm, followed by 3, the vengeance mechanism. After that, we'll explore 4, identity as frozen contradiction. And we'll wrap up with 5, the return to authorship.
All right, let's jump straight into section 1, the identity valence paradox, or the trap of misownership. So let's start with this concept of a valence. A valence isn't your authentic self, not at all. It's actually a complete identity package, a whole personality configuration that you bond with when your original position in a conflict becomes totally unmaintainable. It's a lot like chemistry, right? Where a valence describes an element's capacity to bond. When your own native identity is overwhelmed in a conflict, you unwittingly adopt the exact postulate structure of your opponent. To really grasp how this trap works, take a look at the 4-leg goals package on the screen here. It's like a giant puzzle detailing the precise structural relationship between what you desire for yourself, which is your self-determined postulate, and what you enforce on others, your pan-determined postulate. In a healthy interaction, these two sides naturally complement each other. But when they cross over and the legs don't align logically, the charge just cycles endlessly without any resolution whatsoever. Moving right along to section 2, mechanics of the overwhelm, dramatizing the lie. Take a look at the arrows here. They actually trace the exact step-by-step mechanics of failure. When you're engaged in a game and you suffer what we call progressive postulate failure, meaning you just keep trying and failing to enforce your position, you are literally pushed off your native postulate. You are forced all the way around the legs of the basic game, migrating directly from your original territory into your opponent's territory. Okay, so here is the absolute crucial difference between a healthy game and an overwhelm. At the game's level, level 1B, you have genuine fun opposition. All 4 postulates are active on the board. You hold your position, they hold theirs, it's lively. But at the overwhelm level, level 1A, the game has crashed. Only 2 postulates are active. You enter this state of misownership where you unwittingly run the opponent's pan-determined postulate as if it were your very own. The really scary thing about this level 1A overwhelm, it feels completely convincing. It feels native and real to you. The suffering it generates doesn't seem to have any external source because, well, you're now running both sides of the conflict internally. You have completely forgotten that you bought the lie in the first place, and now you are just dramatizing an identity that isn't even yours. Which brings us perfectly to section 3, the vengeance mechanism, the diagonal flip. Check out the actual geometry of vengeance here. It's wild. When a destructive goals package, something like to destroy or to punch, is reduced down to just a single playable game, the overwhelmed player has absolutely no choice but to compulsively flip diagonally across the grid. You go to the exact opposite extreme. For instance, if your postulate of must not be punched gets overwhelmed, you mechanically flip straight across the axis to must punch. And what this beautifully illustrates is that vengeance isn't just some human foible. It's not a moral failing, and it's definitely not a personality flaw you can simply be talked out of. It is a rigid, inescapable mechanical flip across this 4-class goals grid. Once those arrows cross like you see here, the player is trapped in a locked cycle. The takeaway here is profound, guys. Once someone gets stuck in this isolated, destructive postulate set, they enter a continuous loop of pure vengeance. Because it is mechanically self-sustaining, this cycle can persist for years, decades, or even across generations. Think of those endless historical feuds. They keep going until the underlying structural conflict is finally addressed. All right, moving into section 4, identity as frozen contradiction, and reaching what's known as the insanity point. Listen, if you fully grasp this next concept, it honestly changes everything. Your identity isn't some ethereal, glowing core essence. It's not just a frozen memory either. It is, quite literally, a persisting contradiction. It's the accumulated residue of failed games you refuse to let go of, compressed over time into a structure so tight and stable that it literally begins to function as your self-definition.
So when these impossible internal conflicts compress fully, they reach the insanity point, condensing into what we call TIPM, or twin insanity point mass. Look at these characteristics. Distinct opposites are experienced as identical. Progress halts completely. But the most fascinating point to me is the fourth one, mass. This frozen linguistic contradiction generates the literal sensation of heavy, physical weight and gravitational pull in your life. You feel it as solid matter.
To put that into perspective, let's contrast it with a healthy state. In a flowing reality, your postulates resolve naturally. Events move gracefully from present to past, and you make progress. But in the TIPM state, the basic postulate to continue to be known totally collapses. Time literally stops for that specific trauma. You become trapped in a timeless loop of simultaneous conflicting musts that are just forever frozen in the present moment. And finally, Section 5, the return to authorship, moving from a compulsive player to a conscious designer. So how do we actually escape the trap? Well, it takes a methodical return to authorship. Step 1, you have to recognize that you are the one writing the script. Step 2, identify the foundational decisions, those original postulates that you made, and then entirely forgot you made. And step 3, adopt complementary postulates to achieve the mutual vanishment of the conflict. By walking through these steps, you literally stop experiencing yourself as a victimized character in a pre-written play, and you take your rightful seat as the conscious game designer. The absolute key to that third step is becoming what is called a pan-determined practitioner. To dissolve the overwhelm, you can't just fight harder, right? You must see the opponent's position not as an attacking force, but as a mathematically necessary complementary component of the game itself. You fully engage your own position, sure, but while holding a genuine appreciation for theirs. That is what dissolves the lock.
The ultimate unconfounding of meaning is this profound remembering. That heavy physical mass of your chronic conflicts, it's just frozen language, frozen decisions. You have always been the collective author of your own reality. You wrote the script, and then you just stepped inside it and forgot. The engine of creation continues, and the invitation is always open. The only question left is whether you'll remain a compulsive player, blindly reacting to invisible software loops, or if you'll finally step out of the overwhelm and start writing the reality you truly want. Thank you for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this completely changes how you view the game you are playing.